only decision to make is who's going to go first.
Well, I think Dean needs to go first. He's been just tearing up the paper with his pen the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So I've written a couple. I don't know if they're that good, but I'll read it here. So this one's called Nighttime. All alone in my bed, thoughts circling in my head. Another day has come my way, and now I lay in my bed with thoughts circling in my head. Into the night I rest my eyes to the cries that never die. To another day and night, oh, no escape of the endless loop of a day and night with no end in sight.
Yeah,
That's
good.
that's pretty raw. And by that I mean it's nothing but the experience. It's like without comment. That's really my way of trying to give you a compliment. It didn't come out that way, but it's just it's simple and direct, and I like simple and direct. So even though I'm often not.
Well, I'll go second then. And that poem that you posted that Teresa wrote, she sent it to me too, and she put a note on it that said, I sent this to Gary to read, but just in case he doesn't, I want you to have a copy so you can read it. And I wrote a poem back to her, and I did it in my normal form. I found a picture of her on her Facebook and put her face on it, and the picture is called Whoop, or the poem is called Whoop Whoop, Teresa Whoop. And I said in the poem, okay, I'll be back up. I'll read it if he don't. But Gary and I both are sad that you won't. Be there to read it as we hope that you would. It's your poem, a great poem, and it's really, really good. But it's not just the words on the paper we want. It's your presence, your smile, and your time with our group. Whoop. That didn't rhyme like I thought it might. But why, tell me why do you put up such a fight? We'll take the poem if that's all you will do, but hopefully one day your presence will be with us too. Blessings, sweet friend. We all hope for a whoop on that day, a Tuesday, when you show up at our group.
Very good.
That's very amendable.
So I sent that back to her. She got a kick out of it.
Did she respond back at all, Bobby? Did she respond back to your poem?
She got a kick out of the poem and said, you made my day. And I said, well, I hope you'll be there Tuesday then. And she didn't respond to that. And I wrote her several times this morning and said, man, your poem's tearing it up. You're a celebrity. You got to come to the Zoom meeting. But of course, she's not here. She's busy.
Yeah.
But I think her work is done. She's got all of you guys in It's a Wonderful Life costume, right?
She really
she's all costume through the end of the year.
Yeah, it's maintenance now. But she's I don't know if I've ever met anybody that I really felt truly enjoyed the theatrical process, the whole process.
She does. She loves the
rehearsals and all of that.
She loves the costume parade, and I mean, she loves it all. And she keeps telling me, she won a Zony this year, her first year.
I know she did.
And she said, well, it's all you, Bobby. And I said, no, it's not. It's not me at all. All I did was introduce you to Don Bluth, and you did all the rest. And she has.
Yeah, well, she has, and she's a godsend to the group, especially to people like me. I'm constantly losing something. you know, it's like,
And she's so patient, isn't she?
oh, she just says, oh, okay, I got an idea. I gotta run, but I'll be back. And she'll come back and she'll say, did you look over here? Did you look over there? She says, isn't that it right there? And I said, okay. Yeah. So
Yeah,
anyway, didn't mean to leave,
she's a sweetheart.
didn't mean to leave you out there, um, uh, Dean, but we kind of did. Unless you know her too. I mean, all these people.
I
that-
don't,
No,
I don't,
Dean's
I-
right.
I'm
but I
sorry.
read her poems. It was, I said I read her poems. It was really good. Yes, but no, I don't think I've met her. No.
Well, you know, my ego, I'm going to turn this phone off. I've been calling everybody trying to get them to school me on how to open my own apps on this Android thing I've got for a phone. Anyway, what I was about to say is my ego would insist that I be the one to read her poem. However, what do you call it? Raw or open readings are really not my forte anymore. You know, there's reasons behind that, but we won't go into them. So what I'm suggesting, Bobby, is that perhaps you could read it, and then my conscience would be clear. You know, we honored a poet, and if she doesn't like that, she doesn't like she doesn't like
Hey, well, let's see.
Unknown caller.
I am going to find that she sent me there it is, the handwritten version of her poem.
Oh my gosh, I typed it out. I'm sorry.
Send me a poem, just one, Gary said. He's been asking so long, I rise from my bed. I pour some hot coffee and sit with my pen, and I think about the things that inspire me. Then my thoughts turn to courage, the life-changing kind that fills me with awe and boggles my mind, like living and learning and growing far past the age when most people are coming in last, creating and thriving, contributing to the meaningful factors that feed me and you, like whipping up laughter and stirring up fun, or connecting with those who hope race has been run, like not showing judgment where it might be deserved, instead giving grace that dignity be preserved, uplifting with action and not sitting still, and tutoring us, it's a matter of will. That life to the end is just what you make it. That fulfillment is real and you don't have to fake it. The bold person who I speak of in this poem is a dear friend of mine, and I'm thankful to know him. So, Gary, I've done what I said I would do. I've written a poem, and the poem is you.
Yeah, she got a lot of points for that last couple of lines there. You know,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was a good poem.
You know, just one thing further that I can add, and thank you for reading it. I think you did it proud. But you know that this is what she said, and I have no reason to doubt her. I was making such a fuss about that poem that she says, you know, I write one for almost every situation. And I said, well, a lot of us do. I don't know, what does that mean, you know? And she says, well, look, so so she has a poem. It's in longhand, but it's in night. You can read it. It was not like my chicken scratches, and it's up there in front of the two dressing rooms, and it's there for anybody to read. It has to do with what we're doing, you know,
Right.
but it's still a poem, and it's a fairly long poem. So I'm thinking,
Yeah.
you know, Well, we're gonna win. We're gonna get her here. Gonna get her here.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to. She's been the topic of this Zoom meeting already, and she's not even
And I
here.
know she's already taken up too much space. I'll have to get on her about
Yeah.
that. So you encourage her. I like to tease her because I'm working with her right now, and
Okay.
trust me, she doesn't mind teasing me either. So it's
Yeah. I'll encourage her. I called her today. She didn't answer her phone, but I left her a message.
yeah, yeah. Um, Now I know technically you read that poem, but I still think it's your turn.
No, it's not. It's Dean's turn.
I thought Dean read something.
No, Dean went, then I went, and um then I read Teresa's poem. So I think it's back to Dean. I read Teresa's poem for you, so I think it's back to Dean.
I stand
And like
corrected.
I say, Dean's loaded for bear this week. He's got all
I
kinds.
have nothing. I have nothing. I don't know. I'm empty.
You're
But
empty?
with that being said, I do have a short one,
Yeah.
and it's called "Through the Eyes of a Child." Color is blind. Hate does not exist. Love is given. Life is full of imagination. War and killings do not exist through the eyes of a child. Please never grow up. Let your innocence be our guide.
Yeah. Amen. I'm
Yeah,
going to say
yeah,
amen to that.
I can get behind that. I'd stand up and say amen if I was in church.
Yeah. Yeah. We need to look at things through the eyes of a child right now.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So the poem that I wrote for this, I was kind of empty, and I've kind of been in a maybe a bad place. Um, yeah, I don't know how else to describe it except maybe in a bad place. But anyway, it's things that I see that inspire me, and I take a screenshot of them and write a poem about it. And I've told you before how much I enjoy the young female poets on TikTok that write with such fervor and depth and passion. It's just amazing. I'm just amazed by them. In fact, I wrote a poem a few weeks ago that I shared with you guys, trying to imitate their depth, but it was more in a humorous way. But in comparison to that, what I've noticed on TikTok are that some of the people that I follow because they're funny or because they have some really inspiring things to say, some of those people that are female have resorted to um, what a lot of others do on TikTok to make money is to show show themselves, to use themselves as enticements. They certainly don't intend to give themselves to anybody. They're just trying to get somebody to give them money for showing what they show, and some of them have resorted to that, and it kind of pissed me off one day. And so I was thinking about them and wrote a little poem about them, but I thought I have to write something to balance it. There has to be some balance to this, and what is beautiful and what is not. So this is the poem that I wrote. In all of my years, I've encountered many wonders and been face to face with jaw-dropping beauty. And when I am, I always stand in awe. I really do. The most jaw-dropping beauty I've ever encountered is an intentional, cultured, artistically chiseled beauty inside of a human being, in both he and she. But I have never encountered anything more exquisite than a woman who doesn't project but owns her whole and walks with honor in it. And when she opens her mouth, there's first a warm smile, than musings that stand wise up against the eternal. To that I stand in awe. I really, really do. But I have never seen anything more repulsive than a woman who uses all her parts to gain riches and wields her power over others. It's not difficult to see past her smile, and folly fills her musings. The only being creepier than her is a man who feeds her greed with his own lust. So that's kind of dark and ugly, but
Uh, hey, we got no rules, you know, you write what you feel. What I'm gonna ask as soon as I turn this bloody phone off for good, is that, you repeat the last couple of lines for me, because you've got well, and I think, a lot of good poets and maybe more often songwriters have this, uh, ability to throw a twist at the end, and it just sort of like brings everything home. So I like to hear these, partly because I may steal it someday, and partly because I really do admire it and I want to hear it again.
okay.
You
Well,
can
I'm
pick out
not too sure
3 or 4.
for how far back, but I have never encountered anything more exquisite than a woman who doesn't project, but owns her whole and walks with honor in it. And when she opens her mouth, there's first a warm smile, then musings that stand wise against the eternal. To that I stand in awe. I really do. But I have never seen anything more repulsive than a woman who uses all her parts to gain riches and wields her power over others. It's not difficult to see past her smile, and folly fills her musings. The only being creepier than her is a man who feeds her greed with his own lust.
Very nice.
Those last 2 lines are killer. They really are. No, they are, you know, and that's what I love about poetry, you know, it can just grab you sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, so, I wish I had a better segue into it, but it seems to be my turn.
It is.
It's like,
I believe it is, Gary.
there's got to be a cooler way to do it than that. But you know what? I'm going to read a poem. This is funny. I have 2 daughters, and so being a poet at some point in time, you're going to end up writing about your family, you know. So, and actually, I'm sorry, that was a story for a different day. It is family, but this poem is only about the family who are coming, which would be father, mother, and 2 kids, son, a boy and a girl. And I wrote this poem quite a while ago, and actually, it's just about their coming and about the last time they were here. And the reason I'm going to read it now is that they're coming again, and I'm really curious. It's been well, it's been several years since I wrote this poem, but there's been even more water under the dam. I haven't seen it for a couple of years. So I'm very interested and apprehensive to see how much the kids have grown, you know. So I'm going to just read this poem that I wrote about them when they were here quite a ways back, called Squirrels in the Attic. I awoke this morning to a scurrying of something overhead. Squirrels in the attic? You haven't had an attic in 60 years. Neighbors above me, off on a trip, last I heard. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. It's our grandchildren, Scarlett and Theo. Of course, 2 little sunflowers surging for the sun, escaping from the stillness of the family bed, knowing mom is sure to follow. Theo, hell bent to explore everything behind every door, happy to be distracted by a juicy drawer, scattering objects in his wake. Scarlet, dedicated to an early start on her allotted TV time. Vigilant to the assemblage of her appointed audience, which would be mom and dad and me. Oh, yes, oh, yes. Once more it comes to me, it comes, my blessed dilemma. Should I celebrate my waking by reveling in the sounds of family rising, smiling in my bed, in my heart, or should I race to join the fray, knowing mom and coffee are sure to follow? How coldly comes the answer. They've gone back to Kansas City. It was the scurry of your brain then, peeling back the numbness of your heart, so it could assimilate your loss and begin anew to search the question, will I be all right being once again alone? Oh, yes, oh, yes. My faith would have it so. Oh, yes, oh, yes. But oh.
Nice ending.
Yeah, good. You gonna read it to him tonight?
I don't know. You know, when I did happen to be visiting them after I think it was my first book came out, and I figured they're kids. I'll read them a story about my dog. Now I happen to think very highly of that poem about my dog, but considering my audience, I think that was a better choice than to read this one. But now that they're older, I might very well read it to them while they're here. So
How old are they?
the girl is 12 or 13, you know, right? She's a tweener. And the boy is about 3 years younger, so he would be like 10. And the last time I seen him, the boy really didn't seem to have changed a whole lot. But the girl was like, she's definitely becoming a teenager. So.
Yeah, yeah, they grow up fast.
Yeah. So
And when they hit those teen years, tends to speed up.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. What do I want to say? I'm gonna have to come with my A game to to see how the kids are doing and to make sure they have at least a chance to have a good time. So,
Yeah, good. I'm glad you get to see them.
well, I am too. I am too. I don't. I'm lucky, you know. Though I think when my youngest was when the girl was born, I was there. Our birthdays are 2 days apart, so I was there when she was born. And for a while, I was there every year. But you know, time goes on, and it's like I get busy or they get busy, and all of a sudden that every year thing won't work anymore. And it's but you know, the joy is just watching them grow up. So I don't care what age they're at. You know, they're going to be my kids, and I'm looking.
Yeah.
And I'm almost over the fact that I'm a technical midget and can't handle Uber or Lyft. But you know what? They already know that about me. So what am I fussing about? You know?
Yeah.
I just think it's really time for Dean to wait a minute. Did Dean read the last one?
I think it's Dean's turn if he has one, and I think he does. He wrote lots of them. I've read all the poems he wrote. He sends them to me.
Ah.
So it's really been, my writing's been really about personal experience the last year, as I reflect with the fact of cancer that I'm fighting, and of course a relationship that ended on a sour note. So I've kind of, a lot of it is written on just personal feelings of where I'm at the particular time. So anyway, this one's called Sitting in My Room. Alone with my thoughts, pondering my life yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Music softly playing in the background puts my mind at ease. I'm sitting in my room alone with my thoughts playing in my mind like a movie I've seen 1,000 times. To an ending with no beginning, I'm sitting in my room alone with my thoughts.
That's a great ending.
It's a great ending, but I was just noticing what I'm liking about at least the poems that you shared with us. You're very much in the moment, and it's like I can feel your feelings. You may consider yourself reading a poem or speaking a poem, which, by the way, I'm very impressed by. I've never memorized a single line I ever wrote. I recognize them, but I don't remember them. Anyway, no, I think that is one of the strengths of poetry in general, is that when you're going through something, uh, if you're true to what you're feeling and you have the ability to do it, it's very moving, and that was a very moving poem.
When he reads them, but also he has sent some of those to me, texted them to me, and you can actually, when you read them, when I read what he's texted to me, I can feel his feelings in him. Of course, I know Dean and have a relationship with him, so that's probably a part of it. But
Well, go ahead. You were going to about to say something.
No, I appreciate the input. I really do. But it's I ever since I was a kid, with the exception of the last winter, which I never understand why I wrote it. Uh, I've always found writing, especially during pain or difficulties, has been my way of coping with things, and I rarely share what I write. This is the first time in a long time that I've even shared my writings. But I've always found it to be therapeutic for me just to be able to, and I guess what's kind of interesting, I think I've talked to Bobby about this, is that when I write, I never know what I'm going to write. I know I have the feeling, but it's never like I pre-thought it out, it just kind of put the pen to paper, and then it just seems to come out. So
yeah,
I totally relate to that. I very often actually, I sort of know what I'm trying to write now, and it's not poetry, and it's not all that rewarding. I think when I finally put it all together, I may be happy with it. I might even sell a couple of books, but the truth is, I always approach poetry just the same way you do. It's just like, I don't know what I'm going to write today, but I'm going to write today.
yeah,
Sometimes I'll sit there for several minutes,
yeah.
just with nothing, you know. But yeah, I sometimes, occasionally I'll write something when, a person might say, well, you had a bee in your bonnet, or you were really worked up about that, and that's why it's such a good poetry poem. But I don't really think about it like that. I don't start out that way. I just, I think words just follow words. Thoughts follow thoughts, words follow words, and if you're clever, and I think all of us are, what I say is that pops a poem, and sometimes that poem will last a reader the reader's whole life. I mean, I remember poems that I read when I was a kid. They're still among my favorites. Now, you know what? I want you all to witness that I made the attempt to silence this phone, but
Well, I was just going to say to both of you. I've already expressed how Dean's poems affect me and how they come across, and Gary, yours are, for me, when you start a poem, it's normally about something that's going on in your life. It's like a walk through the deep woods, and there's a lot there, but you have to listen carefully. And for Dean, it's more like stones skipping across the water. He hits the top of everything that run deep, but he uses words that just cause me to go deep. And I was thinking about not necessarily just that, but I was thinking about my own poems and how I mean, every once in a while I've written a poem that, I wrote a poem once and I read it to a friend, and they said, "Wow, that should be in a Hallmark card." So I can write those kind of poems, but most of the time I'm looking, I jump to what might be humorous, and it's made me wonder why I do that. Just like with that poem for Teresa, I'm telling her, "Man, thanks for the poem, but we want you here. We want you as a part of our
Right.
group." Whoop! Oh, that didn't rhyme. So I do something like that almost in every poem, like this one that I wrote a while back called "Fat Chance." It says, "I woke up with not a plan, and I'm leaving it that away, man. I ain't even gonna comb my hair, 'cause I ain't going nowhere. If I choose to do a thing, well, maybe I'll start to sing or invent a dance. Nah, fat chance." And that's kind of where I've been for the last week. It's just, I've been doing what needs to be done, but I haven't been doing anything that is meaningful. I mean, I'm memorizing lines. I'm putting together a storyteller's thing for the theater group here in Sun City. I'm doing some things, but it's my motivation just isn't, for this last week. This hasn't been there like it normally is. So fat chance I'm going to get around to anything.
Come on, you already wrote a great poem called "Fat Chance."
Yeah.
I'm so in awe of you all, which at this point there's only about 5 people I can actually think of, that have come and gone. But I'm just every time we do this, I'm blown away by your abilities, all of you. It's just I pat myself on the back and say, this may be the best idea you ever had. Just get some poets together and have them read and kind of appreciate each other, and
well, I wish we could get more involved so that, and I know you're working at it, but just so so that each of us are just reading a poem and at the most 2 instead of.
I would prefer that. Absolutely. I mean, to be honest, in terms of my desire or need to read my poetry, I made an audio book out of for my last book, and I read every single poem in the book, and I am satisfied. I have read about as much of my own poetry. I mean, in the sense that I would actually practice it before we did it, and it was still fresh in my mind anyway. But this is way better than that, And not only that, I can't get anybody to buy my audio book. So it's like, anyway, yeah, I agree with you though. I have it in my mind, a larger group, and we only do 1 or 2, and I'd be very happy with that,
Yeah.
Besides that, the more people, the more ideas I can steal,
Yeah.
Yeah, you all are going to show up sooner or later. I just don't know when or under what circumstances. But I suppose it's my turn. You may have noticed that I'm not particularly prepared today, but then am I ever? It's like so. I know that I wanted to do something. I had planned to have a snarky day. I was going to get my snarkiest poems and do just those, and I didn't do it. So now I'm just kind of sitting here with the book in front of me, and it's like, okay, well, I can do that. Maybe, but I've done that one, and it's like, uh, I like this one. The subject was heaven. Heaven ain't just some pie in the sky. It's the flicker of love in your sweetheart's eye. Forget about fate and what it proposes. You and your life are coming up roses. So sing your song and dance your jig and act like you just don't give a fig. Slip slide around fate and sidestep strife and do the same damn thing for the rest of your life. Heaven ain't just some pie in the sky. It's the flicker of love in your sweetheart's eye. Slip slide around fate and sidestep strife and do the same damn thing for the rest of your life.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's
Nicely,
good.
nicely rhymed and put together. Something I can't do, but good job.
Oh, you did one that rhymed today. I was impressed.
Yeah, I would argue with Bobby on that. I think you can do it. I don't always rhyme. I mean, I remember Bobby and I had a conversation at the very beginning of all of this, and he admitted, he said, I thought all poems had to rhyme.
Yeah, I
No,
did.
they don't, and often mine don't. And when they do, it's almost like they do it on their own. Like there's
They
little
do it on their own, right?
gnomes in my head, and they say we're rhyming today. I don't care what
Yeah,
it is, we're
yeah,
rhyming, and I let
yeah,
them have their way. It's like they are my inspiration, whoever or whatever they are. Uh,
yeah.
I also vowed I was going to keep better time, and I don't have a. It's funny. This is my workroom, and such as it is. Um, but there's no clock in here.
It's 2:45 almost, or 2:43.
Good, good.
No, there's a clock right behind Dean's head.
Yeah, I just got to, if you can read it, yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
Is it now when you see it? Is it the way you would see it in a net with the naked eye, or is it
Oh,
reversed?
well, it's probably reversed, I would imagine. I'm not sure. I can't see behind me, but luckily I got my Apple Watch, so I can tell the time, and plus my computer tells the time. But right now it's 2:44 as we tick away for another day.
Yeah, it looks like that's the face value of the clock behind you is 2:45, but I'm having trouble making it out too. So.
Well,
I do have my clock and it says 2:45. So
okay. So we got all these clocks, and we seem to be agreed is in the pro. It's close to 2:45,
yes,
which means we have time for more poems. So
well,
Well, I've got one more. I don't know. Some of this poems pour out of me. Thank goodness that I have that ability. But again, it's one of those things that uh, I guess I got to find the one here again real quick. I just had it. It's what I get for talking too much here. Let's see.
you never get in trouble talking too much on this show. I don't think.
Hold on one second. I'll find it. I've written. I think Bobby's got more of my poems together than I do. So this is again about kind of what I've gone through, and it's kind of like how life has been. You know, it's kind of like what when you first fall in love, it's like a drug. I mean, it's you're euphoric, and you basically you're living in kind of an alternative universe. Everything around you is just different when you first fall in love. But there is another side, and this is what this poem is about. Uh, love. To be in love is a euphoric high. Life is beautiful. Life is worth living. Love seems eternal. We are soulmates. But then, like cold water splashed upon your face, love can wake you up to the bitterness you did not see coming. Love is gone. Mistakes can't be undone. Eternal love dissipates. Soulmates have no soul. Life goes cold. Two becomes one.
Two becomes one.
That's a pretty slick line. Two becomes one.
Yeah.
So I've never heard separation quite described like that. But ain't it the truth? I mean, that's kind of what it is, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's normally the other way around. The pastor says the two will become one. And yet, but in divorce, yeah, two become one. Yeah. Wow.
It was a perfect ending. Yeah.
It's all the trouble I'm going to cause today.
Well, the day is still young now. There's more to life than
True.
than the show, but maybe not to other people.
Yeah. Well, I haven't written any recent poems anymore that I could share, but I do have one. I don't know if I've ever shared this. I wrote it right after my stroke. And I was just, Dean and I had coffee the other day, and we were talking about the end of life and how we're closer to it now than we've ever been. And then I had that stroke and realized how close I really was.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. I didn't go there. Nancy Rossman did a week and a half later, but I didn't leave. I'm still here.
Yeah.
But it caused me to write a poem that is called One Last Trip. When I was young, I loved to travel, but as years went by, not so much. And after Danny passed, not at all. But here I am preparing for yet another trip that I've been told since birth would come. And I'm searching for just the right word, curious. Yes, that's it. I'm expectantly curious. I am, but I'm tentative, but agog at the same time. I'm ripe to see what no man could ever imagine. And it was a stroke or cancer or whatever that bought my ticket, but it's my Father who will fly me home. Like I've been told, all things do work for good.
Very nice. Kind of sends me chills, Bobby.
Yeah.
Well, it's I was just thinking about a lot of things at that time, and I was thinking, well, I was told since I was young that a day would come when I would be no more, and I guess I was so far away from it I didn't believe it, but now I am a believer.
Comes into focus, yeah.
Because I am going off of my blood thinners at the first of the year and nervous about that, but I have to do that in order to have other procedures done in order to spare my life. So I'm at that end. I'll be 70 next week. My dad was 74 when he passed. Dean and I were talking about the life expectancy of a man now is 73. So, that's where we're at. Some of us beyond that. Some of us are running marathons at 80 years old.
That's true, but
okay. Let's this. I love the attention don't get me wrong. I like being old and active because it messes with people, and I like to mess with people. However, I don't run marathons. I run 50 meters, 100 meters. And I would just like to straighten that out, you know.
All right.
Besides,
Well,
as it
I
says on
want,
my email, I'm writing a book called Fast at 80. Okay. So it's like,
yeah.
I
All
want,
right.
that's what I want to talk about actually. But no, I do have to say this though. I do have to say this because the numbers, Bob, you said 70 and 71. I have a good friend, matter of fact, a crime novelist who was very successful and wrote like 17 crime novels and made a living from it. But he was telling a group of us one time, he said, you know, I read something the other day that said that age 70, it's possible that that could be your happiest year, your best year. He said there apparently is something about just being on the planet for 70 years and,
Hmm.
you know, it's easier. And this is what I found out once he said that, and I happened to be 70 at the time, I said, man, I like that. I like that a lot. And I don't know whether it was because he said it, but all of a sudden I started counting my blessings and I thought, dang, instead of, God, I'm 70, I started thinking, I'm 70, you know,
Mhm.
I am 70 and I ain't even close to the end, you know. Of course, that was 11 years ago. So, you know, things change,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, you can't. It's. I think. I think it's beautiful, but I think that what the realization comes when you kind of kick the can down the road. When you're 20, you don't think about it. You turn 30, you start to think a little bit about it. Then all of a sudden, 40s hit, but you're still ahead of the game. 50s, yeah, you're beginning to think a little bit more as you're getting a little bit older. The 60s hit, and you still feel like you're kicking the can down the road. But then the 70s hit, and that can becomes harder to kick down the road because your body begins to change dramatically at 70. It's like for me, I was walking 60-mile walks for Komen. I was working out every day. I was averaging 10 to 12 mile a day walks, working out in the gym. Life was great. But all of a sudden I hit 70 and things took me by surprise, like cancer that I didn't expect,
yeah,
or and your body. So I think what Bobby and I were talking about, it's not that I mean it's great. It is a great platitude to go, hey, I made it to 70, and some people make it to 80 and 90. But personally, for me, and Bobby and I discussed this, I'm okay living long as I can live. And what I mean by that is I don't want to be
I know.
bleeding out of my mouth, have someone feed me, be a vegetable. So these are the things that as you get older, it's up to your body for you to decide, for kind of decide like the quality of life. And we're talking about Oregon, where you have the assisted suicide. I think I'm not trying to be kind of be a downer, but there comes a time sometimes in life when, and I've noticed because I'm in assisted living right now, that some people are at a point where they aren't living anymore. I mean, they don't walk, they're tied to a chair. Some people obviously go to hospice, but I guess the key thing about the reality, I guess for me, and I was talking to Bobby about it, is just that when you hit 70, and I'm going to be 73 coming up here, uh, it's an eye opener because you really can't kick the can down the road too much more. Now, obviously, there are exceptions to the rules, but 70 is probably, you can say to yourself, 10 years, 15 years. But then do you really want to live 20 or 30 years? Because then you become, unless we're like Rosen Carter, who was very active to the end. So it really depends on the body, but the body tends to 9 times out of 10 tends to kind of go into a reverse ability to do the things you used to do. So
Well, I thought what you just said was that little section was very poetic, and I don't mind to living at 70 as long as I can still live. I like that.
Well, my response to that is I'll be young while I'm young, and I'll be old when I get old. I ain't got old yet. I just got time, years, you know. And by that I mean I don't mean that I'm healthier or smarter or wiser or any of that. It's just, you know, I think if you have your health, it's a good idea to celebrate it. That's all I'm saying.
I agree. 100%. Yeah.
So, and that's really all I'm saying. I know that in a lot of ways it's just a matter of luck of the draw. You know,
Yeah.
My parents were long lived, and yeah, if I were.
Yeah.
Well, if I had these problems that a lot of people my age have, yeah, I'd be saying the same thing, singing the same tune they are. But I think you gotta tell your own truth. My truth is, it ain't that all that bad right now, you know. Ask me again next year, you know. Anyway, I'm gonna do one more, just because it looks like it's gonna be an easier read. I really gotta. Well, I started to say I really got to practice my poems more, but I know I won't, so I won't even say it. You know, it's like I'm going to read them as I find them. Anyway, I don't think I've read this one before, but Dale would know. She remembers everything everybody does. Anyway, it's called On That Day. I will not rage. Okay, I'm sorry. I skipped the first line. On the day that I pass over, I will not rage against the dying of the light, but I do wonder what will happen. How will it feel entering the void of peace? I cannot answer where I'm going. I might not recognize it when I get there, or remember that I've lived before. But on that day, I will know full well where I have been, how I have shown up. On that day, I will have no age, no limitations, no cares for tomorrow. On that day, I will be somebody's dad, somebody's grandfather, somebody's friend, somebody's lover, either past or in the wings, somebody's favorite poet. On that day, I will be clothed in grace and loved by my Creator, the giver of all life, the author of my next chapter.
There you go.
That's good. Very nice.
That may be
Very good.
Get today.
Well, we've hit the 3 o'clock mark, so we've actually done a full hour.
Yeah, and very good. You all keep writing now because it's good for you.
There you go. There you go. I think you should say that again, just for the, and we'll let that be the last word, and we'll make Raven's job of cutting these things down to look right much easier. So take it away, Mr. Hayden.
Y'all keep writing now because it's good for you.
Amen. All right.